Good morning, good afternoon, whatever we're going to call this. Time has been so elusive, kind of strange, right? So just waiting for a few of you to get on. I know many of you have told me you wanted to join Wednesday Wisdom Live today, and I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for taking and making the time to be here today. So I will get started. I'd like to start more promptly. I've gotten some feedback from some wonderful human beings and souls who were kind enough to join in and listen and participate in Wednesday Wisdom with me. And I so appreciate, some of them have said, and I understand and hear them, I think they make an excellent point, that waiting for people to jump on is sometimes, I guess it's distracting. So let me know when you're here. I would love to hear from you. And hi, Pam. All right, so just making sure we're online. My internet's been a little funky the last few days, so today I am connecting with you in a different space in my home. Another thing to get adjusted to, of course. So every day's been different for all of us with this quarantine. And so for me, the internet's been a challenge. And it's funny because I'm not such a technical person. In fact, it's been another blessing that learning technology more and more. Honestly, a year ago, I couldn't even turn on a computer. And I'm not even kidding when I say this. So I'm proud of that. That's been another silver lining, truly, is learning so much more about technology and how to connect with people. I'm real grateful for that. Many silver linings, actually. Today, however, we are going to talk about judgment. So for those of you that saw this morning's post, every Wednesday for the last, I think, almost 2 months now, I am writing an original statement from my heart to yours, and I'm calling it Wednesday Wisdom, which will provide a launching space for us to have a conversation live here today. It's funny, let me pause there for a moment. So I was just talking to a dear friend about the word conversation. For me, everything's a conversation. When I write, I feel like I'm having a conversation, whether it's with you, a stranger, myself, my soul. To me, conversation and communication and connection is my true life's path and purpose. So when we talk about Facebook Live and Instagram Live, it's a little weird because I keep calling this a conversation, yet I can't hear you or see you. So I encourage you, as I said at the very beginning, that I would love your feedback. I would love your comments. I will try as much as I can to follow the comments and to engage with you through your commentary. So what I started saying at the beginning, the last few weeks, I've just sort of waited for people to come on and kind of, just going over time. And I decided today to kind of make this a bit more structured. I feel that first and foremost, and most importantly, your time matters. So I know we're in quarantine. Actually, I take that back. South Florida opened on Monday. So for those of you that are here in Florida with me, we've that we are opening and making those shifts and getting more comfortable with whatever. I don't even like the phrase new normal, to be honest. To me, nothing's normal anymore. What is normal? Honestly, so I'm working on coming up with a new phrase rather than new normal, because there's no normal. Listen, I don't think I'm normal. And I love that. I think the world is about the spectrum of the rainbow and the colors within us. So what I wanted to share is I'm getting started more promptly. Typically, I repeat myself several times, either the message I'm trying to communicate or my quote or whatever. And the reason I wanted to be more mindful of the time frame is I've gotten some feedback. I have friends and family and listeners, readers, strangers even, who have reached out and said, oh, so sorry I had to jump off. First of all, please don't apologize. I feel as humans, and this ties into our topic today about judgment, I feel an apology is so important. How we do it, why, when, and that will be for another topic in the near future. So, hint. But please, no apologies. I'm so grateful for all of you who show up and take and make the time to be here and be together, or as together as we can be right now. So thank you very much. I want to start there. Secondly, the reason I want to be more punctual about our Wednesday Wisdom connection and when we are together in this space is I know many of us work. We might have other things, taking care of a sick relative, kids at home, whatever. All of our situations are different, and I want to respect that. So I ask going forward that we all try and show up together, and I will not keep repeating my message. You can look at it later on Facebook. It's also on my YouTube channel. Every Soul Has a Story, along with my Sunday Connection meditations that you'll see more and more of. So let's get started. So today, we are talking about judgment, judging, whatever form of the word you would like to use. And what I wrote this morning for Wednesday Wisdom is love more, judge less. Love more, judge less. That's my paraphrasing verbally to you. What I actually wrote was, you can check it out if you'd like, less judgment, more love. Or more love, less judgment. So I'm throwing it out in different ways. But the bottom line is, every soul has a story. So yes, while that's also the name of my movement, my blog, podcast, I really mean that sincerely. That phrase that I chose, every soul has a story, ties directly in with judgment. And here's what I'm talking about. I'm really concerned. I'm worried. We are in week 11 or 12. You know, it's funny when I say that because I'm sure we all know that this COVID has been going on way earlier than February or March. But when I say 11 weeks, I'm 11 weeks at home. And what I mean is that I'm observing, I'm hearing, I'm listening to people judge one another, judging ourselves, judging our friends. What is he doing? What is she doing? What is he or she not doing? And so the word judgment has been just reverberating in my mind over and over and over for weeks. And I thought, whenever I get that nudge, it's time to share it with you. So I would imagine I can't be the only one that's concerned about the judgment going on. Listen, here's the first place to start. Did you know there is even a debate about how to spell the word judgment? Just sit with that for a moment. So, semantically speaking, from a word perspective, judgment, just the word judgment, there's a debate over how to spell the word. That's how much controversy, meaning, I think relatability, universality, this word has. Do you spell it with an E? Do you spell it without? I chose today when I wrote my post to spell it without. Why? I'm a researcher, I'm a journalist at heart, and I did a plethora of research, and that is the most common way to spell it. But I want you to sit with that first before we continue our conversation, because I found that I found it curious, it kind of tickled me, and it made me think a bit as well about the word and what we're discussing here today. And I thought, geez, the word judgment, just the word itself, people are debating. I mean, think about this, right? And I'm talking for years. This is not new. Those of you fellow writers, wordologists, self-proclaimed nerds, that's me. I'm proud of it. I spend hours thinking about words. Like, it gives me pleasure. So I'd like to read to you the blog I'm posting tomorrow. A few of you also told me during Mother's Day you really enjoyed hearing me read one of my blogs. So let me just read an excerpt for tomorrow's blog, and let's start there. And I'd love for you to jump in. I'd love for you to share your experiences, your feelings, your thoughts. Again, this is Every Soul Has a Story. It's not just about Dara's soul, it's every soul has a story here on Wednesday Wisdom Live. So here's an excerpt from tomorrow's post. I'll be publishing it tomorrow. It is mind-bending how one word has widespread meaning. Words have always mattered to me, whether written, spoken. The words we choose can heal, harm, or hurt. Right now, our hearts and heads are inflamed with worry, especially for me. I could tell you as a mother, oh my gosh, my head is going like woo all over the place, which is why my meditation is even more important now than ever. But I'm keeping it real, guys. I mean, gals, we all have our moments. Boy, did I have a moment yesterday. I'll share with you later. So the word that's jumping around my head incessantly, it's like a grasshopper. It's like ding, 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 is judgment. It's like making me crazy. I keep hearing it. I think about it. I'm concerned about it. Even people that I know that are usually more open-minded, tolerant, accepting, woo, what I'm hearing, seeing, the verbals, the nonverbals, sometimes it's not just what somebody says or does. It's what they don't do or don't say. So that's my first point from this perspective in talking about this, is judgment is not just a word. Judgment holds within its meaning. Judgment has so many different meanings. You could look at it from a biblical perspective. You can look at it from, I think about my teens, and I'm writing about this for tomorrow as well. My teenagers, you know, any of you that have teenagers, you often hear this phrase like, hey, don't judge, don't judge, don't judge me. You know, they're right. We have to learn from our kids. Gosh, they're spot on. I love how my kids, who are almost 16 and 18, hey Tina, and they are so much more accepting and embracing, whether it's sexuality, political viewpoints. It's really absolutely stunning. It's inspiring. I often say my kids are my lifetime teachers. They make me a better human. My son was born last month, 18 years ago. Gosh, that's crazy. I still feel like I'm 18, and I'm definitely not. So we have so much we can learn from them. So this little like kitschy phrase they're using, I don't know if they realize the depth of it, but I sure do. And I ask you to pause and consider that whole phrase, don't judge. So let's go a little deeper in this conversation. It's really easy to say, don't judge, right? And honestly, as I always share openly and authentically with you, I have caught myself judging. And I consider myself, honestly, from my heart, I work hard at this. I consider myself one of the most accepting, embracing, open-minded people that I know. And I am not saying that as, oh, I'm so great, that's a compliment to self. I'm just sharing that is, I feel that anyone that knows me would describe me that way. Sometimes I'm even too tolerant. I've had people, you know, abusive, toxic. I know a lot of you on here can relate. So I'm learning that being that open-minded and that tolerant is not always a good thing, but that's kind of a different vein. Let's stick with what the word is today. That's right. Okay, thank you for commenting. So Tina just said it's human nature to judge. She's absolutely right, 100%. It's definitely human nature to judge. However, I don't know that just because we do it, does that make it right? Even the word right and wrong, you know, the shoulds, you should do this, or that's right. You shouldn't do that, that's wrong. Even that language is so judgy. Ugh, it makes me crazy. It really does. And I catch myself, and I realize, you know, I could be pretty hard on myself. Words really matter to me. I feel that words have so much meaning. And words can, like I said earlier, can hurt or heal. So I feel we have to be real careful how we use them. That's right. Yeah, Tina said we have to be more aware of we're doing it. That's the key to judgment. Spot on, Tina. That's wonderful that you said that. I appreciate it. That leads me into the next piece that I wanted to talk about in this multifaceted, if you think of it almost like a prism, judgment, or any word really. So there's some shinier sides, there are some more matte, tarnished sides, and it's how we use it. You could use the word judgment. Let's go on a different path for a moment. So the word judgment could also be positive, right? That's not what I'm focusing on today. But you could take the word judgment and say, oh, he or she has good judgment. You know, he or she didn't drink and drive, or they've got great reflexes, or they wore a mask in public. So I'm going to pause there. I have a confession, and I feel awful about it, and I want to share it with you. I have caught myself, the last few weeks especially, judging. I've been judging myself, which I do all the time, working on that. Judging others, quietly, but I'll catch myself and I'll say, whoa, Dara, hold on, sister. That was not you, that was not cool. So often it doesn't come out of my mouth, but still, I consider myself a very self-aware woman, very empathetic and empathic. And I really got upset with myself how much I found myself judging another person. It just felt darn wrong. My friend Nikki called it last week. She said corona shaming. You know, there's mom shaming, there's dad shaming, we can go on. And that all falls under the umbrella of judgment. So the question I have for you today is, I don't believe that if we're human beings, and especially if we're thinkers, right? I find in my personal experience, again, this might be a judgment or an opinion, and we're going to talk about that next. So I find people that are, how do I say this? Really in their head, like me sometimes, or a lot of time. Most writers, I think, are often in their head. We have to access our heart to really write, and I'm grateful. I've worked hard on that, but I can get stuck in my head. I'm extremely analytical. I love problem solving, and I love information. I love research. So maybe some of us that are in our head might be finding ourselves, especially now, perhaps judging now when we didn't, or if you were more of a judgmental type person, and I say that without judgment, okay? You know, I think when you're thinking, and us people, oh my goodness, excuse the grammar. See, I just judge myself. I think when we are really deep thinkers, sometimes we have to be mindful of not judging. So Crazy Cat Mama just said, judgment is based upon our personal prejudices. Of course, absolutely. It's also, I feel, based on our expectations. I have very high expectations of myself and sometimes of others, often. So sometimes that tends to merge, and I have to be careful to keep certain things in their own lane, right? Kind of like when we're driving. Oh yes, Samra, absolutely. So Samra said, I think social media has amplified that judgment. Spot on. I actually wrote about that a little bit too for tomorrow's blog. Yeah, 100%. It's really a problem. And there's, you know, a lot of political intensity. So that's kind of like merging lanes with the judgment. And, you know, it's really hard, guys and gals, because if we're going to speak specifically to where we are today in terms of the coronavirus, navigating this unprecedented time that is just bizarre. I mean, it's like we're living in the Twilight Zone, literally. So we're talking about the word judgment today for Wednesday Wisdom. And, you know, we have to figure out also the difference between judgment and discernment. Big difference, right? For me, discernment is pausing, thinking, is this the right choice for me, my family, my friend? Is it safe? Is it whatever, fill in the blank, whatever adjective, okay? I feel judgment is saying, you don't do this. You should not do this. You are wrong for doing this. It's more external. Again, we're human. It's really hard and would truly be I think, an unrealistic, although in my utopian planet, I would love to have people that nobody judged anybody. But I'll tell you a quick story. I just remembered when I was a reporter, when I was working in Indiana at my university, one of our first assignments, gosh, it was the Gulf War. I'm dating myself. Fascinating, actually. I was a freshman. And we were supposed to write a paper about the Gulf War. And I remember what I wrote about was how one reporter can cover the same story and you have 10 different articles. It might be something like, let's say I chose the word cobalt blue, but John Smith chose the word navy blue. Even one word can literally color, pun intended, a perspective, a story, right? So why do I bring this up? Because when we talk about judgment, it's similar, right? It's our life experience. It's how we were raised. It is what we have been exposed to. It may be even who we live with. All of those things and influences will impact our opinions and judgments. So I feel there's a fine line between an opinion and a judgment, and I think about this often. I'll go back to my blog and read a little more for you, okay? Maybe this will help clarify. So I feel there's a divisiveness that's happening, and it's almost taking on its own sickness, the judging of others, just like the virus. So we have the physical virus, and this is Mental Health Awareness Week, and I was thinking about judgment and how we talked about this last month in our Wednesday Wisdom Live, but I do want to reiterate how much judging others impacts our mental and emotional well-being. As I said when we began today, words can hurt and words can heal, and I really encourage you to choose wisely. I'm not saying don't judge like our teenagers say. I want to say that. I want to hope for that. I wish that is the way of the world. However, due to social media, incessant 24/7 news, I think it's hard not to judge. So here's what happened to me yesterday that really prompted the reason I wanted to write about this and speak about it with you today. I haven't left my house in 11 weeks, okay? Almost 3 months. That's a long time. And to be frank, it's been wonderful. I'm blessed. I tell you something, thank God I am madly in love with my husband. I've got amazing kids, and I'm not just saying that. Are they perfect? No. Am I? Hell no. But I'm really grateful, and I realize the blessings. I've been able to create more. I'm interviewing tons of people for my podcast. So why am I saying all this? I realize, and I'm aware that it's a blessing that I'm able to be home and stay safe. Whereas so many people feel like they're, in prison or trapped. I have not felt that way at all. So yesterday, I had to go to the pharmacy. Look at this. I'm already getting anxious talking about it. I woke up in the morning and I was like buzzy and I didn't know what was wrong with me. Meditating didn't help. Exercise didn't help. I really couldn't identify what was going on for me. And then I realized as I was driving to the pharmacy with not just one mask, but two. I'm not kidding. I had a KN95 and then that silly bikini looking one that I showed you all a few weeks ago. I had a glove, one glove, because I have a whole plan. I knew what I would be touching and what I wouldn't. And I've worked in healthcare settings, so I know how to use the glove, because I do know a glove is a false sense of protection and security if you touch your face. Okay, so I know all that. I was prepared. I was ready. I was scared, you know what, Liz. I didn't realize it. So I go into the pharmacy, and I purposely go to a local pharmacy. They are so lovely. They are so kind. I'm a big believer in supporting local businesses, so that is why I went completely out of my way. But I had to get a certain medication, and they filled it, thankfully, for 60 days. So I call a friend of mine, actually, who's a doctor on the way home, and I'm literally dizzy. And again, I'm not making this connection. I drop off the prescription. I step outside with my double mask. It's raining. We're in muggy, humid South Florida, and I literally can't breathe. But again, I'm like, it's because it's hot out. Because I'm really good at connecting my body, mind, and spirit. So I thought, whatever. So I go back into the pharmacy to get the script. the woman behind the counter, working there, probably filling the prescription, touching it. Her mask is dangling from her right ear, like, woo, like this. There are 8 customers in there. When I was in there before, there was 1. I was fully judging. I was 100% outright, mortifyingly, uncharacteristically Dara judging. And I felt so freaking bad about it. So I get back in the car, I call my really good friend who's a doctor, and actually I'm getting dizzy now. And she started talking about anoxia, which is when you don't get enough oxygen to your brain, which is happening with a lot of COVID patients, happens when you have a stroke as well. And I said to her, I feel anoxic. And I realized, by the way, now the mask was off, both of them, that I was panicking. And I was so shocked by my reaction, to be honest. So I was judging myself. And I judged myself from when I walked in the door at 1:45 p.m. until 8 o'clock last night. I told my kids, I told my husband, I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I just had to go to the pharmacy. I have friends that have gone to Publix and Winn-Dixie and grocery stores every day. I know people now, we've opened up in South Florida. They're eating out. Oh my gosh, I was beating myself up for this uncharacteristically intense emotional response. So I thought again about Mental Health Week and how I have so much compassion and empathy for the many, many people that have on a daily basis severe anxiety or depression or the many, many, many other challenges within the spectrum. I have some loved ones that struggle with that. And those 6 hours are really painful for me. So not just my reaction, which I'll write about and discuss next week, but I'm pulling it back to judgment. Why? Because I was judging that woman without the mask on who was working there. So that wasn't right of me. But then I thought, hold on, is that judgment or is that a social responsibility? Because I consider myself a really social responsible woman. And yet I've had visits with friends. I'm trying to get a little bit more comfortable. So we're like 10 or 12 feet apart. I'm always sometimes 20, one person in my driveway or in my backyard. We don't always wear masks because I'm trying to sort of find that middle ground that feels safe, socially responsible, but not rigid, because I got news, folks. This virus is not going away. There will not be some miraculous vaccine by next week. So I really want us to focus deeply, mindfully, awarely. I don't know if that's a word. It is now. I really encourage you to focus on your thoughts and feelings and words. Always, but especially now. Our hearts are inflamed. Our minds are worried, going in so many different directions, whether people are worrying about keeping their jobs, taking care of their children or their older parents. There's so many reasons why we have to be so mindful of how we speak and how we speak to ourselves, because how we speak to ourselves, our inner dialogue, if we are judging ourselves, we'll judge others, right? So it's kind of like I used to tell my kids all the time, if you don't clear the table at home or say please and thank you, this is when they were like 3 years old, you won't do it when you're outside of my house. Well, the same thing. We have our own homes, right? Our bodies are our home, and so are our psyches and our hearts. So if we're judging ourselves for what we do or don't do, then I'm sure as heck you're judging other people too. So again, clearly it's human to judge. Clearly. We are thinking people. We are free spirits. We have free will. We are bombarded with an obnoxious BuzzFeed. It's like a beehive of news. And it's overwhelming, it's overstimulating. Listen, I would love to give you a challenge for the week, even for a day. Don't judge anybody ever. And I'd love to gather here again next Wednesday and hear what your experiences were, because honestly, there's the other side of this too. There's some people that I know very well, and they always say things like, I never judge anyone. And even the word never is a bit of a judgy statement, word rather, because never, should, would, those 3 words are very, very judge-y-ish, right? Aw, thank you, Stephanie. That was so kind. Wow. So somebody, and again, I'm not shouting out everyone anymore. I've also been made aware, a lot of people have said that you just want to hear me speak. This feels so weird, by the way. So I would rather say hi to everyone, but apparently that's distracting. I want to acknowledge Stephanie, though. She was on my college roommate at Indiana University. She's in Indiana, and we reconnected recently after 30-something years. Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate what you said. I love what you have to share. And Samra just said, just made a connection. Yes, Samra, a lot of judgment has been translating into this moral superiority. That is so spot on, in my opinion. And so let's shift now from the difference between judgment and opinion. I've thought about this for years. Certain people that I grew up with, I feel are extremely judgmental, kind souls, beautiful humans, really good people, but very, very judgmental. And so I think that's why it's always been a hot button for me, that I consider myself, because I've worked on it actively, and about being quite an open-minded human being. And that's why I was so shocked that I'm finding myself judging myself a lot, and especially judging others, because it's so uncharacteristic for me. So, but then an opinion. I'm a very opinionated person. I will own that. I will rock that. To me, personally, this is how I perceive this. I feel opinions are different than judgments. So please jump in. I would love to hear your feeling on that. But to me, an opinion is your individual perspective, feeling, thought process, angle on an issue. It could be something as ridiculous and superficial as we spoke about color earlier, that sky is baby blue, but I'm seeing cobalt blue, and so is seeing ocean blue, right? So that's an opinion, in my opinion. Haha. Okay, that's how I feel. To me, judgment, again, is going to the should, the would, the I never. It's taking your opinion and kind of telling someone what to do, and I think really disrespecting them. You could be an extremely opinionated soul, but not being judgmental, right? I think it's all in how we say it, our energy. Are we soft about it and loving? Are we coming from a place of compassion, a place of understanding, a place of acceptance? Or are we coming from a controlling space, a very narrow-minded, my way or the highway? To me, that's judgmental. And honestly, my opinion about those who are that judgmental, I can't stand it. It's one of my biggest triggers, to be honest. And again, I know why, and I'm not blaming anyone in my past, because that's not productive, and honestly, that's not kind or fair. But I do think there's a big difference between judgment and judging and opinions. And I also line it up with people that I know that are very, very intelligent, very much in their heads, intellectual. And again, I'm not saying that in any book smart way or any judgmental way, just to be clear. I really regard people with opinions. I feel like those are people that are giving thought to our world, to our planet, to how we live. I feel we have choices in how we live and choices in how we don't live. And I choose as much as possible to live without judgment. Because at the end of the day, what's best for you, what's best for your family, is what matters most. Who am I to say, oh, I can't believe you, blah, blah, blah. Now, another time I caught myself judging, it was recently, sometime this month. I had a good friend who was confiding in me and expressing something about another mom, like a mommy shaming moment kind of thing. And she was frustrated with herself because, much like me, we're like-minded in that way. We are both very, very open-minded people, embracing, tolerant. And she was upset with herself. She said, she referenced last week's Wednesday Live, and she said, you made me think about not judging others, and that's what kind of gave me the impetus to make this really the focus for today. So I said, well, what do you mean? What happened? So apparently somebody she knows, another mom, had a big party. There were like 50 kids there. They were drunk, high, no masks. So we had a really deep conversation about this because I got pretty reactive. And so did she. And so we were kind of bantering. And again, this is someone I trust implicitly. And our conversation was interesting because it made me think about today also. I thought, am I judging this other mother for doing what she's comfortable with? But then I thought about the time we're in and the social responsibility. I know people that are battling cancer, people with autoimmune diseases. You know, my parents are older, family members that are older. You know, this is impacting everyone. This disease does not discriminate. So I thought, am I judging by my reaction? Or am I frustrated? And my opinion was that parent or parents that had all these kids over for this huge party, unsupervised, kids drinking, the whole thing, I don't think that's socially responsible. So I'm really struggling here. I would love your feedback, everyone, because is that me being judgmental? I don't consider myself a judgmental person. I'm constantly checking myself. Or is that an opinion of, gosh, every kid that was there is bringing whatever home to their homes. Then anyone living in that home who's working is bringing it to their workplace, and on and on and on. So I'm struggling with this. It's been really hard. I'm really, really proud of and mindful of not being a judgmental human being. So again, over and over I will say, judge less, love more. And love doesn't just have to be romantic. Unfortunately, we can't give hugs right now, which I'm missing terribly because I'm such a hugger. I'm a really tactile person. Let me pause for a moment. So Suzanne Higgins said, oh, excellent point. Thank you for sharing. Judging can also be agreeing to disagree. It is okay to be concerned during this time because we are being put in the position of trusting others to do the right thing. Ooh, that's powerful, Suzanne. I appreciate that perspective. Judging, Dee Dee said, judgment when things can be unsafe or a threat is not judgmental, it is concern. But Dee Dee, I hear you. And I think it's how we say what we say, right? That's what I started talking about earlier, was coming from a place of love and compassion, even when you're upset, even when, like I said, you know, you see people up. I drove down Las Olas Boulevard. It was last month. I just wanted to see the beach. I didn't get out of the car. And I am not kidding when I saw no less than 70 people congregating in an outside bar. And I'm talking close together, like really close, no mask. And again, I questioned myself. I said, Dara, are you judging them? But the lines have gotten blurry for me, and I'm really being careful because some people can't help how they're living right now. Whether they don't know better, whether it's a financial issue and they can't afford a mask, whether they have to work and they're in a setting like, I know a lot of healthcare workers, it's crazy. They're not even being provided with PPE. They're having to rewear their masks. So again, I think judgment and judging versus having an opinion or being opinionated is about having the facts. I believe it's about coming from a place of love and compassion and kindness. And pausing, I feel that judgment and judging is often jumping to conclusions, not having the facts, taking your everything and pushing it on someone else and giving the shoulds. You should do this. You shouldn't. I would never. Those two words make me crazy. I'm going to be honest. I even catch myself verbally saying it with my children or my husband. And I'll say, never say never, guys. Or, hold on, let me correct myself. I don't want to say should. So here's a suggestion. Let's say your best friend lives very, very differently than you. They're a great human being, he or she rather. And they choose, they're not doing social distancing. They hang out with their family, and I don't mean who they live with. And they do it every single week or every single day with no mask, really close together, even sharing hand towels. Honestly, internally, that makes me extremely anxious. That makes me worry about my friend, his or her family, and others. But where the judgment comes in, I'm not going to tell that person that. To me, that's judging. That's not my place, in my opinion. And it's gotten so volatile on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, even the news media. it's really, I feel, becoming just as dangerous and toxic as the virus itself, the judgment. We need compassion right now. We need to support each other. I would like to challenge all of you as we wrap up today to take this pandemic and shift it from corona to compassion. I encourage you today, before you judge someone else, whether it's someone you know and love or it's a stranger, I encourage you today to think really deeply, pause before you judge. And judgment, like we discussed, can look lots of different ways. Judgment can be silent. Judgment can be a nonverbal, like a, right? That's judging. It doesn't have to just be a word. I'd like to close today with what I started with, which is words matter. Words matter a whole heck of a lot, at least to me. They always have and they always will. Words can hurt and words can heal. And we all have a choice how we use them. So I encourage you today, this week, to really pause and think, is this an opinion or a judgment? And most of all, how can I come from a place of love? How can we take this pandemic and shift it from the coronavirus to compassion for others? Not everyone's in our shoes. We are not all in the same boat. So before you judge, pause. Before you make a judgment, think. And try to put some perspective on it, not just yours. That's the key. So to me, the difference between judgment and opinions is that an opinion is often, not always, based on fact or feeling or personal experience, and it's often previewed by a phrase such as, in my opinion, or if it were me. Those are some suggestions I have to soften what might morph into a judgment, because judgments hurt. They hurt really badly, always, and especially now, because some people are just doing the best they can, and their best might not be good enough for you, for me, but it might be all they've got, whether it's emotionally, physically. Again, I referenced Mental Health Week. I just ask you to consider this. Judge less, love more, because every soul has a story and every soul matters. From my heart to yours, wishing you health and love and less judgment, more peace. And I hope to connect with you next week. Thank you so much for joining me on Wednesday Wisdom Live. Bye.